Good morning. Oh, let's try that one more time. A little low rumble there. Good morning. Welcome to Seven City. If I haven't had a chance to meet you, my name is Stephen, and so glad you're with us today. And hey, before we jump in, let me just give a shout out to our band. Man, guys, come on. Good stuff, man. Honest, it is so awesome to just worship God, be in the presence of the Lord. And before I jump into today's message, let me also give you a quick update. How many of you noticed out in the parking lot a whole bunch of tents and cones and all kinds of stuff when you came in today? Seven City is getting ready to host the biggest party you've ever seen. Actually, it's a new vaccination site that they just set up and opened up this weekend. So over the next few weeks, there may be a little back and forth with our parking, but don't worry, we got you covered. So just a heads up of what is happening out there. Well, it's so good to have you with us today. If you're watching online, so good to have you tuning in this morning. Today is a special day because today is Vision Sunday at Seven City. And today, woo, I like that. Come on, thank you, Sean. Got some shout out there. Today, we're looking ahead at 2021 and what God has in store for the future. But before we look ahead, I want us to take just a moment and I want us to look back and celebrate what God has done. Now, I know some of you're thinking to yourself, look back, that's the last thing I want to do. Do you know what is behind us? I mean, Stephen, do you realize that in just a couple of weeks, we will be on the 1-year anniversary that COVID shut everything down? How many of you feel like it's not been a year, it's been more like 10 years? Yeah, like I can't, just put it behind me. I just can't, I can't do that anymore. Here's the thing I want you to know, and here's the reason why we would take a moment and look back. Is because even in all of the hardship and all of the pain and all of the difficulty of the last year, God has still been at work. He has still been at work. In fact, Jesus said in Matthew chapter 16, verse 18, he said, I will build my church. He didn't say, I might build my church. He didn't say, I'll build my church on Sundays only. He didn't say, I'll build my church when COVID's gone. He said, I will build my church. And then he said this, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. The gates of hell shall not prevail against it. The gates of hell, or COVID, or the economy, or a crazy winter storm, or frozen pipes, or electricity outages, whatever your hell looks like, the gates of hell will not prevail against God building his church. He will build his church despite what comes your way, despite what harm there is, despite what the year shapes up to look like, despite what dash dreams showed up or didn't show up in your life. He will build his church. Why? Because you and I serve a God who is on mission. And he invites us to be on mission with him. In fact, in case you think that maybe over the last year God's been on vacation, let me take just a moment to share with you a glimpse of what God has been doing in and through Seven City Church over the last 12 months. Do you realize that over the last 12 months, we have supported 20 missionaries, church planters, and local nonprofits every single month out of this church? Now, you may not think that's any big deal, but just a few, let me tell you how much this means to our missionaries. Just a few weeks ago, I had lunch with one of our missionaries that was home, and he called me, and so we got together for lunch, and he told me, he said, Stephen, I want to thank you because you guys have supported us for the last 8 years, and in that 8 years, there's not been a single month that you missed supporting us. Not a single month. You see, why do we partner with missionaries? Why do we partner with church planners? Why do we partner with our local nonprofits month after month after month? Why? Because they are on the front lines, advancing the work of the gospel, providing humanitarian care, doing what needs to be done to meet needs, solve problems, make a difference, help people. They are on the front lines, and we're going to say we're going to do everything we can to get behind you and what God has called you to do. Seven City, in spite of everything that's happened, we've said we're going to stick with this. Over the last year, we have provided 15,000 meals right here in Tarrant County. Through our partnership with Tarrant Area Food Bank, we've been able to provide 15,000 meals. Not only that, but we partnered with the Fort Worth ISD to feed families for a 3-month stretch in the middle of COVID to help take care of those families, to provide food for those families whenever they couldn't get food for themselves. In addition to that, we partnered with Convoy of Hope and their work across the United States. They set a goal whenever COVID hit to provide 10,000 meals to families across the United States. We were able to partner with them to help them in that endeavor. Do you know what they're up to? They went way past 10 million. They just hit 200 million meals in the U.S. Your support helps make that possible. What else has happened in the last year? In the last year, we've invested in a college scholarship for urban youth. Last spring, whenever all of the racial tension began to rise, we began to ask, what can we do in this moment to make a difference for an individual person, for a student, for someone that maybe otherwise wouldn't have had an opportunity? And we partnered with North Central University, one of our Bible colleges that formed this scholarship fund, and we invested in that fund to help make a way for an urban youth to be able to have a college education and experience a life that they otherwise would not have been able to have. Your support make that happen. We were able to come alongside someone that you haven't even met and change the trajectory of their future. In the last year, we've expanded our online church. Do you realize, man, I mean, we're celebrating every Sunday here in the room, but so many of you are watching online, whether you're here in Fort Worth or you're in Nebraska or you're in Norway. I know we've got people watching from all of those places. You know what's awesome? It's amazing how the gospel impacts lives, even when you're going through a camera, and I don't know how all the technology works, but boom, it comes out the other side, and there it is. And lives are restored, lives are renewed, lives are transformed, lives are changed. Guess what? We have upped our game in the last year in this area and said, we're gonna be intentional about being on mission with what we're doing online. And lives are being changed. In the last year, we have invested over $12,000 for the refugee crisis in Bulgaria. I serve on the Convoy of Hope European Task Force, and that task force, we have begun to mobilize work in Europe to help in some of the most desperate need in helping so many refugees and seeing God work to bring the hope of the gospel, to bring humanitarian care and to help people in need. Guess what, Seven City? We were able to come alongside and say, you know what, we can help meet that need. We can help solve that problem. We can help make a difference in the lives of people. That's happened in the last year. It's amazing what God has been doing. In the last year, our work in Kenya has not stopped. Not only did we provide soap and for widows in the slums and making sure that they could wash their hands whenever COVID hit, but food trucks would pull into the slums. Because everything had been shut down by COVID, and even the small little businesses on the side of the road, it had been shut down. People couldn't get food, and food trucks would come into the slums and try to provide and meet the needs. And there was so much need that widows were being trampled to death just to try to get their hands on some flour, on some corn. And whenever Pastor Ben told me about that in Kenya, and he said, here's what's going on, I said, how many widows are in the church that we support? And he told me, I said, you tell them that we'll take care of their food. They're not gonna risk being trampled to death just so that they can eat a meal for the day. You were a part of that. We were a part of that, making a difference for someone in their deepest, darkest hour of need. Not only that, just a couple of months ago, ground was broken on the 5-story ministry center that we told you about back in November. A ministry center in the middle of the slums that's gonna meet so many needs, introduce people to Jesus, provide medical care, provide care for those that have been victims of sex trafficking, educate children. There's so many things that are going to happen out of this 5-story building. You helped give over $15,000 to build that facility. It was a $50,000 building. 7 City alone invested over $15,000 to make that possible. And guess what? It's going up right now. In fact, Pastor Ben, who you met just 3 months ago, is in Kenya today. And this week, he sent me a video update. Check this out.
Hello, 7 City Church, Pastor Stephen and the team. Pastor Chu here with your favorite missionaries.
Hi, 7 City!
Hey, 7 City. So we're excited to be here because we're actually standing on this is the 3rd floor of the building that you all have contributed towards. So I just want to say thank you, Pastor Stephen, for giving us the opportunity to share the vision that God has given us to build this building, this 5-story building, where so many different ministries will be able to be together in this one building and really impact thousands of lives. As you can see around us, you can see the entire Kibera slums, 1.5 million people living here. So as you can imagine, a 5-story building with all the ministries from the clinic, the school, the church, the vocational training, and the human trafficking rescue center. This really will change a lot of lives, and you are part of that. You really contributed and raised the money, and we're so grateful for it. And we want to say thank you and God bless you.
Isn't that good news? Already have 3 floors up. I know you couldn't do that in the U.S., but the standards are a little different. But anyway, it's an amazing thing to see happen. They got 2 more stories to go, and those ministries, and here's the great thing, they own it. They're not renting anymore. They're gonna have a permanent facility that becomes a permanent lighthouse in the largest slum in all of not just Kenya, but all of Africa. God is still building his church. Even in hardship and difficulty, God is still building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. That's why vision for the future is so important. That's why we can never, individually or as a church, stop dreaming and envisioning what God has for the future of our city, our nation, and our world. It's why we don't give up. It's why we don't pull back. It's why we say, no, we will move forward. Proverbs 29:18 tells us, if people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. How many of you ever had one of those moments you get up in the middle of the night and you're walking like in the middle of the dark, maybe through the living room, and suddenly you ram your shin into a piece of furniture, or you catch the corner of a table, and all of a sudden you're hopping around, right? You're stumbling all over yourself. Maybe you stepped on a toy if you've got kids or grandkids, right? You stepped on that and you're stumbling all over yourself. God says, hey, when you can't see what I'm doing, that's what you're doing. You're stumbling all over yourself. But then he goes on, he says, but when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. How many of you want to be most blessed? How many of you say, I don't want to just be a little bit blessed. I don't want to be sort of kind of blessed. I want to be most blessed. You put up both hands. You're like, come on, bring it on, right? You know how you can be most blessed? God tells us right here, when you attend to what God reveals. When you attend to what, in other words, hear me, when what's on God's heart suddenly gets on your heart, God blesses you. When your priorities suddenly align with his priorities, God says, I can bless them. Why? Because now he can trust you. He can entrust you with that blessing because he says, they have my heart. They have my priorities at heart. God says, hey, you'll be most blessed when you attend to what he reveals. And that's what today is all about. That's what Vision Sunday is all about. I want to share with you today the direction that we sense God revealing for 7 City Church for 2021. And it can all be summed up in one word. And that word is rise. Rise. In the last 12 months, you probably feel like you've kind of walked through the fire. And maybe you're here and you even feel like your life is almost like a pile of ashes that have been scorched by so much pain and difficulty in the last year. But this morning, I believe God is calling us to rise up out of those ashes. To rise up out of the ashes of pain and brokenness. To rise up out of the ashes of depression and despair. To rise up out of the ashes of fear and uncertainty and to step into what God has for you and what God has for us collectively as the church. God is calling us to rise up, and I believe at Seven City that there are two ways that He's calling us to rise up. And that's where I want to focus our attention. Number one, I believe God is first calling us to rise up spiritually. To rise up spiritually. In the Old Testament, we find a prophet named Isaiah. And Isaiah writes some words that are profoundly relevant to what's happening today in our world. Profoundly relevant to our lives. Something that offers hope during difficult times. And this is what Isaiah writes. He says, "But those who wait for Yahweh's grace." Who's Yahweh? That's the Lord. It's another name for the Lord. Those who wait for the Lord's grace, for Yahweh's grace, will experience divine strength. They will rise up. They will rise up on soaring wings and fly like eagles, run their race without growing weary, and walk through life without giving up. How many of you would like to be able to not grow weary? To find renewed strength in the Lord. God says, hey, that can happen for those who wait for Yahweh's grace. I want you to notice two ideas in this passage real quick. The first one is when Isaiah says to wait for Yahweh's grace, a lot of translations say it like this. They say, wait on the Lord. For those who wait on the Lord. What does it mean to wait on the Lord? Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word wait, like the first thing that comes to my mind isn't like necessarily positive. You know what I'm saying? Like the first thing you kind of think of when you think of wait is a red light. You think of, waiting to get the test results back from the doctor. You think of, waiting to hear, did I pass the exam or not? You think of waiting you're like waiting, you think of this, right? Come on, any day now, any day. Waiting feels like you're just being idle and inactive. That's not what Isaiah is saying here. When Isaiah says wait on the Lord, here's what it means. It means to have eager expectancy of the Lord. It means to have an eagerness, an expectancy that God is going to work. That He's going to be true to His word, that He's going to do what He said. It's having this full confidence in God where you say, God, you are my source, you are my help, my confidence is in you. It's this eagerness, this expectancy that God is going to do something amazing. And here's what's awesome. When we have that eager expectancy, there's an outcome. Isaiah tells us that the outcome is strength. In other words, when you have an eager expectancy in the Lord, He is going to give you the strength to do what He's calling you to do. He's going to give you the strength to walk through the storm. He's going to give you the strength to stand in the midst of COVID. He's going to give you the strength you need in the moment if you have an eager expectancy in the Lord. In fact, here's the crazy thing. Isaiah wanted to make this point so clear that he didn't emphasize it one time or two times or three times, or he emphasized it 4 times. 4 different times he basically said, when you wait on the Lord, you're going to have the strength that you need. Look what he said. He said, those who wait for Yahweh's grace, those who wait on the Lord will experience divine strength. There's number 1. They'll rise up on soaring wings and fly like eagles. There's number 2. They will run their race without growing weary. That's number 3. And they will walk through life without giving up. That's number 4. Isaiah is saying, guys, I just want you to know, if you'll just wait on the Lord, if you'll have an eager expectancy, I'm telling you, strength will come. Strength will come. And this morning, some of you, you're here today, and you feel like your life has gone through the fire, and it feels like ashes right now. And I just want you to know, the Holy Spirit today is inviting you to wait on him. And he's got a bucket load, a 4 times fold load of strength waiting for you. If you'll just have an eager expectancy that he's got this. He's in control. And he's with you and for you in this time. And this morning, I believe that God is calling us collectively as a church as well to wait on the Lord, to have this confidence and this expectancy in the Lord. And so this year, there's 4 ways that I believe the Lord is leading us to rise up spiritually, collectively as a church. Number one is to pray and fast. Now, I know you maybe were expecting something really big there, and you're like, oh. Because how many of you, fasting is your favorite thing to do ever, right? It's on your top 300 list, okay? All right? No, it's not even there, right? I love food. And I got anyone in the house that you say, yeah, me too. Count me in that group, right? Love food. But you know what? Sometimes when you want to see God do something you've never seen him do, you have to do something you've never done. Sometimes you got to say, God, I'm all in on this. Because here's what I know. Some of you today, you need a breakthrough in your life. Some of you need a breakthrough in your health. Some of you need a breakthrough in your family. Some of you need a breakthrough in your finances. Some of you need a breakthrough emotionally because of the despair and the difficulty that you're feeling. Some of you need a breakthrough at work. There's something going on, and you need God to show up and show off in a big way because you don't know what else to do. And let me tell you what else. Every one of us need a breakthrough spiritually. And so I'm inviting you to join me for the next 30 days as we fast and pray and to believe God for those breakthroughs. In fact, we're not waiting on this one. This one starts tomorrow, okay? So goal number 1 starts tomorrow, Monday, March 1st. I gave you today off, so eat big, right? Have you a good lunch today. Have a dinner. Maybe have 2 dinners, but tomorrow, we start. Why? Because listen to me, pursuing vision without the help of the Lord is a recipe for disaster. We need the Lord's help. And right now, we need a spiritual breakthrough at Seven City Church. We need a spiritual breakthrough in our personal lives. We need God to show up and do something extraordinary, and this is where it's going to start. So the first thing we're going to do, if we're going to rise spiritually, is we're going to make a commitment. We're going to say, well, God, you can count on us. God, we're going to fast. We're going to pray. We're going to seek you in this time because, God, we need you. And I believe God's going to meet us when we do that. Here's the second thing. The second way we want to rise spiritually is something that we're simply calling C3. C3. One of the areas that we feel that we can do a better job at Seven City is helping people discover their purpose. Discover their purpose. In fact, you just ask people, it's one of the biggest questions people have. I don't know what my purpose is. And so we feel this urgency to help people in this area. And so our team has been preparing an event that will offer multiple times throughout the year. And this event is called C3. What does C3 mean? It means Christ, community, and culture. You see, here's what we believe. If you're going to discover purpose for your life, you cannot do it apart from Christ, outside of community, or without a focus on influencing culture in your world in a way that matters. Otherwise, every bit of purpose becomes selfish. When your purpose is grounded in Christ, it suddenly has eternal significance. Whenever your purpose is built in community with other believers of Jesus, suddenly you recognize that, you know what, I'm not the Lone Ranger Christian. Like, I'm in this with other followers of Jesus. Jesus called us as part of his body, not Lone Rangers. And it's not about serving us. It's about taking whatever God has entrusted us with and using it to serve our world, to make a difference. And so here's what we're going to do. On Sunday, March 28th at 5 p.m., go ahead and mark your calendar now. You got permission. Pull out your phone. If you're online, pull out your phone. March 28th, right? 5 p.m. March 28th at 5 p.m. I want to invite every single person who calls Seven City home to join us that night. Because on that night, we're going to launch the inaugural C3 event. And here's what's awesome is that it's gonna be just a fantastic event. You're not just gonna hear from me that night, you're gonna hear from different staff. It's gonna be a fun, a creative, an awesome night to just drive our purpose deeper and to deeper connect us with Seven City and what God has called us to do. And everyone who comes that night is gonna get a C3 kit. What's in the C3 kit? I'm not telling you. It's good though, all right? And it's free. You don't got to pay for it. It's yours. It's our gift to you. We just want to say, hey, you're part of the team. You're part of what God is doing at Seven City. And I just believe it's going to be a beautiful, galvanizing moment for us as a congregation. You want to be here. You want to be here. You want to be a part of that. And then here's the deal. After that night, we're going to offer C3 about every other month so that every guest that walks through our doors has an opportunity to discover their purpose as well and to connect with the mission that God has called Seven City to. Number 3, the third thing is what we call Seven City Summer Nights. Don't you love that graphic? It looks like Miami, right? We needed that last week, right? What are Seven City Summer Nights? Let me ask a question. How many of you over the last year, the thing that has been so difficult for you is just not being able to be with your friends anymore? How many of you is just like, you feel like community just got ripped out from under you? You just feel like, I just feel lonely, lost. I just feel like I hate Zoom, right? I mean, you're just in that space. You're like, I just can't do this anymore. And you're just wrestling and you just need that connection. So this summer, we're doing something different specifically for this need right now. And that is that on Tuesday nights for 6 Tuesdays in a row, beginning June 1st, we're going to do what we're calling Seven City Summer Nights. And 3 of them are going to be for men and 3 of them are going to be for women. So it's going to be a great opportunity, guys, for you to hang out with other guys. Just to just build some friendships with other guys. Ladies, an opportunity for you to build some friendships with other ladies. And here's the thing, it's gonna be fun. It's not just gonna be like a real serious, there's gonna be some fun stuff going on with it. And there's rumor, there might be a cookout, guys. But anyway, there's gonna be there's gonna be some fun stuff for everybody. And why? Because right now, man, you need a healthy dose of community. Oh, yeah, but Stephen, we got a social distance. I know, we'll take care of all that. But you need a real living body that you can connect with. So someone that you can just just be refreshed and renewed by simply being able to spend some time with some others. And so we're gonna do that beginning on Tuesday, June the 1st. The first one will be for women, the next one for men, then it'll go women, men, and we'll do that through Tuesday, July the 6th. It's gonna be a great night. You'll hear more details coming soon. Here's the 4th thing we're going to do. It's called First Wednesdays. What is First Wednesdays? For some time, in fact, even before we did our major building renovation, we just really had this desire to, on the first Wednesday of every month, have a time to just go deeper with the Lord in prayer, in worship, in teaching, in special ministry moments where we could pray for people about specific needs, pray for people to be healed, restored, freed, that God would just do something special. And we couldn't do it because we went into the construction and that took, 8-9 months. And then we're like, okay, catch our breath. And then boom, COVID hits. And so this September, we're going to launch that. I know that's still a few months away, but beginning September the 1st, that first Wednesday of September, and every first Wednesday of the month after that, we're going to set aside a special time for that. And I believe it's going to just be like a very spiritually refreshing time for us as a congregation. How's God calling us to rise up spiritually right now? I think he's saying, hey, it's time to fast and pray. Hey, I want you to know your purpose. Hey, I want you to lean into community. I want you to go deeper with me. And these are the 4 things we're going to do to help see that happen this year. But God is not only calling us to rise spiritually. Number 2, I believe he's calling us to rise missionally. Now you may say, well, like, what does that mean? Like a missionally, in other words, being on mission with God. Being on mission with what God is doing in the world. At Seven City, we are on mission, and we describe it like this. This is our vision. We say our vision is to see cities transformed by equipping people to know Christ, experience community, and influence culture. That's why this church exists. That's why this church has existed for the last 8 years. This is the vision God has called this house to. And all throughout Scripture, we see God as a God of mission. He is a God on mission in the world, building his church, doing a work to interact with the people that he created and to invite them into relationship with him, to meet their need, to do extraordinary things in their midst. We see this all throughout Scripture. In the book of Joshua, we see a leadership handoff take place between Moses and Joshua. Moses had died, and the leadership baton was passed to Joshua. And during that transition, I want you to see what the Lord said to Joshua. Joshua chapter 1, verse 2. This is God speaking. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, what? Arise. Arise to take his place. Cross over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land which I am giving to them, to the sons of Israel. Notice God said, now therefore arise. That's exactly what Joshua did. And on mission with God, he led the people of God into the promised land that God had promised to give to them. In 2021, I believe God is calling Seven City to not only rise spiritually, but also to rise missionally, to commit ourselves once again to the mission of reaching people in our city, in our country, in our world, with the only message that can transform the human heart, the message of Jesus. And so what does that look like for Seven City in 2021? There's 4 ways that I believe God is calling us to rise missionally. Number 1 is to invite a friend. Now I know some of you are like, wow, nothing new there. You tell us to do that all the time. Yeah, what's number 2, Stephen? Go ahead and move it. No. Let me ask you a question. Don't answer. Just let this settle in your spirit. Who do you know right now, a friend, a family member, whoever, that is hurting? Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're dealing with grief. Maybe they've lost a loved one to COVID. Maybe they have COVID. Maybe their job has been impacted. Maybe they feel overwhelmed with anxiety and fear and uncertainty. Maybe they're just weary. They're tired of all of this. Who do you know that needs hope? Right now, there's people coming to your mind. You're thinking of people, yeah, they do. They do. Listen, I believe God wants us to be dealers in hope. That we would recognize we have the hope of Christ, which saves our soul. which gives us strength and grace and peace. And why on earth would I want to not share that with somebody else? I believe God is inviting us to join him on a mission that says, hey, I'm going to invest in someone who currently needs some hope, needs some help, needs some joy, needs some peace, needs a friend, and then invite them to be a part of what God is doing, to come into community where they can experience the grace of God, where they can experience the hope that every single person needs. Yeah, but Stephen, I mean, we got a social distance here. We got a social distance. Our chairs have been the same since COVID hit. They are social distanced. Yeah, but I know, but we got to make room. Hear me. I don't care if we have to add a third service, a fourth service, a fifth service, a sixth service to make room for your friend who needs the hope of the gospel. Their soul is more important than my convenience, the staff's convenience, your convenience. Their heart is more important. Well, yeah, but then we're going to have to serve more. How does that hold up with God? We have the hope that our world desperately needs. And I'm telling you, we've got a responsibility, a God-given commission that we find in the Gospels to go into all the world and to make disciples. When Jesus said that, he wasn't talking about going overseas, making disciples, coming home, going about your normal life. When he said to go, it literally means in your going. In other words, as you go throughout your day, make disciples. In your daily life, be about the kingdom business of reaching people and loving people, helping people, inviting people. You may say, well, Stephen, that's outside my comfort zone. I understand. Stephen, I don't know who I'd invite. Well, let me help you out here. Every one of us can invite Fran. You know who Fran is? Fran is a friend, a relative, an associate, or a neighbor. Everybody's got a Fran in their life. Everybody's got somebody that they can invite. And you may say, no, I don't have a friend. Well, then maybe you can invite a NARF, a neighbor, an associate, a relative, or a friend, okay? You got a friend, you got a Fran, or you got a NARF. You got one of them, right? I mean, come on. We all have somebody that we can say, you know, this person, God, I'm gonna begin to invest in them because there's too much that hangs in the balance. And I'm going to invite them and believe God to change their life. Here's the second thing that we want to do to rise missionally, and that is to give $150,000 to cultural transformation. What is cultural transformation? It's everything we do locally and globally as an outreach. Let me put this in a little perspective. Last year, in the middle of the hardest year, we were able to give away $110,000 because of your faithfulness. I was blown away when we got to the end of the year and I realized that it was that much. In the history of Seven City, the most we've ever been able to give away in any year has been roughly $125,000. This year, I believe the Lord is saying, do the best, do the most you've ever done. Do $150,000. Where is that going to come from, Stephen? You know, the last 3 weeks we've talked to you about taking steps of faith in your own finances. Not sometimes, that same principle applies to the body of Christ collectively. And sometimes God will say to the church, hey, now you do that. I mean, I could look at it and say, well, that's an awful lot. I don't know how we can make that happen. I'm not sure where that's going to come from. But you know what? It's when you take a step of faith that sometimes that's when God says, okay, I can honor that. Hebrews tells us it is impossible to please God without faith. And I believe God is calling us to take a step of faith to give more money away than we have ever given before in the history of Seven City, to meet needs, to solve problems, to address humanitarian needs literally around the world, to bring the gospel to people who do not know, who have not heard, to advance the work that he's called us to. What does that money go to? It goes to the support, again, of our missionaries, our church planters, our local nonprofit. It advances our work in Kenya, Africa. It supports the work of Convoy of Hope Europe. It allows us to take on new missionaries and new missions projects. Do you realize that I probably get a request once every 10 days from a missionary for Seven City Church to support them? A new missionary, probably every 10 days. And most of them I have to say no to. There's plenty of need. And there is plenty of money. I shared it with you last week, but there is not enough money to satisfy our greed. There is enough money to satisfy the need. And sometimes we just have to say, you know what, God? The mission is too great. The need is too great for us to simply get comfortable doing what we've always done. We'll be able to support new church planters in major cities around the U.S. We'll be able to advance our outreach right here in our community in Fort Worth, if we make that possible. Number 3. That is to serve our city. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on serving our city because we're really in the planning stages of this, and I don't want to prematurely say some things, but we've got a couple of projects we're working on right now that are brand new projects, things we've never done before that would add value to our city, that would serve our city, that would make a difference in our city and for people in need during this very difficult time. And number four is a Kansas City church plant. If you've been around Seven City long, you know we love church planters. And specifically, we feel God has called us to help people who are planting churches in the heart of major cities, in the urban environment, the heart of major cities. And we've done that in the past with churches in New York City and Nashville and Boston and different places. And God has been so good. But it's been a couple years since we brought on a new church planter. And so I had some conversations in the last few months with a church planting couple named Alex and Cassie Farron. And Alex and Cassie have moved to Kansas City and are planting a church in the heart of Kansas City. And I was speaking with Alex just this week, and I said, hey, give me the latest update. And he began to share some amazing breakthroughs that have already happened. And in addition, he told me, he said, Stephen, he said, we've already got 3 small groups meeting in Kansas City. And we're building our launch team, and their plan is to launch in September of this year. And I told him, I said, Alex, I believe the Lord wants us to help you in what he's put on your heart, what he's calling you to do. And so you're going to get a chance to meet Alex and Cassie at the end of April. They're going to be joining us at Seven City, and you're going to hear more of their story. But since they're not with us now, would you take a moment and watch this and hear a little bit of what God has called Alex and Cassie to do?
Hi, I'm Cassie.
I'm Alex.
And we are down in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, in the Midtown neighborhood where we are planning on starting a brand new church. You know, when my husband first took me down here to Kansas City, I remember saying, this place feels like home. There's so many people here that just have an entrepreneurial spirit. They're creatives. And that's part of the reason why we love the area and part of the reason why we decided to start a brand new faith community.
We know that when we talk about the church, that can mean a lot of things for a lot of people. For some, it was a place of pain. for others hurt, and for some it was a place of abuse. And we know that we want to re-represent the church to the community of Kansas City. We want to be a church that rebuilds trust, rebuilds faith in Jesus. We believe that when someone encounters Jesus, it's the most compelling, vision-filled purpose they can ever imagine. So we are excited to announce that we are launching Midtown Church in the fall of 2021.
We know that in order to establish trust in the local church, that we're going to have to be intimately involved in our community. So we're going to be doing this through a variety of community events, as well as being a good neighbor to those around us. If you want to find out more about Midtown Church, visit us at midtownkc.church.
Isn't that exciting? We love, you can give the Lord a hand there. We love church planners. It's in our blood. In fact, this week, me and Karen and Pastor Seth and Janae, we're heading to Houston for about 3 days to be with a group of church planners and the work that they're doing all over the country, to celebrate that work and hear more of what God wants to do in our world. So this morning, I believe God's calling us to rise spiritually and to rise missionally. That's both a personal thing as well as a collective thing. And so I want to bring us back to where we started today, and that is that all begins with prayer. Recognizing that we can have all the best plans and we can have all the best goals and the things that we want to accomplish, but the minute you can accomplish any of that without the help of God, you've not dreamed big enough. And today, I want you to know we need the help of God. And so in your seat, you'll find a card. And I'm going to ask everyone to grab that card. It looks like this. And look at the side that says Rise on the top of it. That should have been in your seat whenever you came in this morning. If you're watching online, here's what I'd like to ask you to do. I'd like to ask you right now to go to 7city.info. Just do that right now. And when you get to 7city.info, the second tab down says prayer and fasting. I want you to click that tab. Just go there right now, because we want you to be engaged in this process. This is not a vision just for what's happening in the house at Seven City Church. This is a vision for online, for all of us. We're all the same family, and I want all of us to be a part of it. So if you've got that pulled up online, or you're in the house and you've got the card, on the front of that card, there's a place where it says, friends and family I will pray for and invite to Easter at Seven City. One of our goals is to invite a friend. And the reality is that the two easiest times of the year to invite a friend to church are Christmas and Easter. It's just easier. People just tend to be a little more open. It's not the only time. And we obviously want to go way beyond that, but we're just a little over a month away from Easter. And we're going to be having 3 Easter services, one on Saturday, April the 3rd at 5 p.m., 2 on Sunday morning, April the 4th at 9:15 and 10:45. And my question for you today is, who can you invite to Easter? And so on that card right now, I'm going to invite you, grab a pen, and there's a little box here. It's got some blanks, and if you're online, you'll see a box on the form that you pull up. But in that box, would you right now just write the name or names of some friends or family members that you could invite to be a part of Easter at Seven City? You don't have to give us their last name. That's totally up to you. We're not going to publicize this list. What we're going to do is we're going to pray over this list. This is all going to come to my office, and our staff are going to begin praying with you and believing with you and agreeing with you, joining with you, praying and asking God to do something amazing in the hearts of your friends and family that need Jesus, that need hope right now. So right now, just start jotting their names down. If you're online, just right now, on that form at 7city.info under prayer and fasting, just when it pops up, just jot that down. On the back of that card, if you'll turn it over, you'll see on the back, there's a place for your name, your phone, your email, but you'll see this calendar, and it starts with tomorrow's date, and it goes all the way up to Easter, the Friday before Easter, Good Friday. And I'm inviting you to join me in fasting and praying during this time. Again, some of you right now, you need a personal breakthrough in some area of your life. And I believe we all need a spiritual breakthrough. We just need a fresh encounter with God. We need Jesus to do something fresh and new in our hearts, our lives. And we need Jesus to help us if we're going to accomplish what we feel he's calling us to accomplish this year. And so you'll notice on every date, you've got the initials BLD, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So would you right now, would you just say, here's the meals I will fast over the next month, and just team up together, or this is what we're going to do. And this is between you and God. You may say, well, I'll do one day a week, and I'm going to fast every meal those days. Or you may say, you know what, I'll fast one meal a couple days a week. Well, it's totally up to you. No guilt, no pressure. But I am challenging you as your pastor to step into this moment and to say, this doesn't happen without the help of the Lord. And I'm all in. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to fast. Now, if you're here and you say, well, Stephen, I can't because I'm physically not able to. Maybe your doctor has told you that that's not the best thing for you. That's fine. No guilt. But my question for you would simply be, then what can you fast? Maybe it's television. Maybe it's social media. What is it that the Lord would have you fast if you're not able to fast food? Just take a moment and fill that out. And as you circle the ones that you want to fast, then you can just put your name, phone, and email. And then you'll notice right under email, there's a box there. And it simply says this: yes, I or we will attend the C3 team night at 7 City Church on Sunday, March 28th at 5 p.m. You heard me talk about C3 just a moment ago. Again, we want every person that calls 7 City home to join us that night. It's going to be a great evening. So if you say, yeah, I'll be there, then just go ahead and check it. Don't do this. Don't say, well, let me think about it. How many know when you think about something too long, you think yourself out of it? Just say, I'll be there. You can count on me. You can count on me. Sunday, March 28th, 5 p.m. So just fill that out. And then here's the deal. The bottom of that card, you see that same calendar. And the reason is that you can, after you fill this out, you can just fold it in half and on the perforation there and just tear that off. And you can write on the other card, you can just circle the days that you just committed to fast and pray so you'll remember. You can take this with you. On the back of that, you'll see a list of the different things that we're praying and fasting for, and add to that list whatever you need God to give you a breakthrough in your life, okay? Would you do that? Here's what I'm going to ask you to do right now. If you're still filling it out, that's perfectly fine. Please continue. I'm going to ask you to stand with your card, and I want you to hold it in your hand. And if you're not done, that's okay. I'm going to pray, and if you want to keep writing while I pray, that's totally okay. I want you to be able to fill this out. But I want you to hold that card in your hands. We're going to pray right now, and we're just going to ask God to honor the steps that we're taking over these coming weeks and months. And we're going to ask God to take those friends whose names you just wrote down, and that their day of salvation would be very, very soon. And we'd be able to celebrate together. Holding your card, let's pray. Jesus, right now we come to